Good afternoon and welcome to BCSN Conversations. This is Roy Evans. Today, I have joining me the head Wildcat, Mr. Lynn Thompson, the AD from Bethune-Cookman University. Mr. Thompson, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What about you?
Listen, we're up here. I'm sheltered in place in Georgia. We're keeping it laid, keeping it low, just enjoying a little bit of time back and continuing the Black College Sports Network conversation.
Well, you know something, the term sheltered in place, we used to use that term when hurricanes were coming.
Right.
Now we're doing it because of a doggone virus. Isn't that something?
Hey, listen, beautiful. You know, I'm a Florida native, so we know how it is. We're used to those hurricanes.
That's right. That's right.
A little bit, let nature take its course.
That's right.
Let's jump into a little bit of the conversation. This was an unprecedented situation that reared its head, and how did you all handle this down at Bethune? What was the feel when all this stuff came down late February, early March, canceling spring sports, moving to the first phase of that, and getting students back in? How did that whole thing happen with you guys?
Well, as you know, this was the second of a series of natural disasters to affect Bethune-Cookman this year. As you know, when we started the season off in Atlanta in the MEXWAC Classic, we had to stay for 3 to 4 extra days because of a Category 4 hurricane that came through Daytona Beach in the state of Florida, and it basically just stranded us in Atlanta after the win over Jackson State. We were out of school for another 8 days, and we had to cancel the football game against Southeast Louisiana the following week, and so that started the season off for us, which was a very unique season for us. We finished the season, but going into the fall and then the rest of the winter, we were doing well in all of our sports. Our women's basketball team, as you know, won the regular season. Vanessa Blair-Lewis did a tremendous job. Our men's team was hot going into the conference tournament, probably as one of the 2 to 3 teams to beat. And but we were watching with a bird's eye view and a laser focus the COVID-19 situation as it began to take root. And so dealing with our president, Dr. E. LeBrent Cright, we huddled up. And I'll tell you, on the trip to Norfolk, on my flight there, I was a little concerned because of all of the precautions on the airlines that they were taking, even in the airports, they were taking, and seeing so many different fans and passengers with the mask then. We get there to the tournament, and we are alerted to all the precautions that the tournament committee had put in place. But most importantly, it seemed that developments were occurring so rapidly. I had a conversation with our president a day and a half prior to the season, actually us pulling the plug on the season. And we had decided at Bethune-Cookman that we were going to stop down for the rest of the year. We felt it was in our best interest as an institution, a smaller private university, that we needed to do what we felt was in the best interest of our student body, first and foremost, to protect them. And we had decided that we were going to just pull the plug on the rest of the year. Academically, we were on spring break, and athletically, we just felt that we couldn't go any further. If we were to do so, we would be jeopardizing the future and the health and safety of our student athletes. And so we said that we would stop on Sunday. we were at the tournament, and we said that Sunday we laid out all the athletic events. We said Sunday we're stopping. We're going to send out a notice to everybody, and we actually made that decision. And then we notified the presidents. We had a presidential and athletic directors meeting at the tournament, and we went in and told the commissioner and all of the presidents that Bethune-Cookman had decided that we were done. And in a matter of about 45 minutes, the rest of the league had decided to follow suit. Not that they were following Bethune-Cookman, but because we said that we had no other choice, we don't have a state system that supports us. Right. You know, like a lot of the other institutions. We had to do what was in the best interest of Bethune-Cookman. Dr. Fredericks, the president of Howard University, is a practicing physician. He brought to the forefront some of the medical concerns. Dr. Wilson is on the board of governors of the NCAA. He brought to the forefront some of the NCAA concerns. I serve on the committee on academics. So as we sat in that room, all of the issues came to the forefront at one time. Now, Bethune-Cookman had already made the decision. The commissioner began to speak, and as we were talking, news began to leak out that many of the other major tournaments were being canceled on the spot. And so it happened in a matter of 30 minutes or so that the rest of the league decided as a body that we were stopping down and we were canceling out the rest of the academic year from an athletic standpoint. And it proved to be the best decision and the safest decision that we had to make. And that's really what happened.
Wow. Well, listen, you know, whether you want to take credit for it or not, being out.
Right, we're not taking credit for it.
I hear you, but being out in front of something like that is definitely a positive thing. We were finishing up a tournament. Actually, we had just finished the GCAC tournament.
Right.
Started those things, which was the week prior to that. And hearing all the news, and we were thinking to ourselves, it's like, man, listen, you know, if they don't know how this thing moves and what it does, it's like, let's worry about the student athletes and let's shut that down.
Yeah.
Different options there.
You know, and there were people who were, you know, on various sides of that fence debating that. Clearly the student athletes wanted to play. But then there were parents who said, can you guarantee the health and safety of my child? And the answer to that is no. You know, and you know, if you do this thing right, you can come and play another day. And all of us who are parents said that you can play another day. And so by no means is Bethune-Cookman taking any credit for leading the MEAC into this decision. It was the right decision to make. We just happened to make one decision for our institution first and foremost. And then having the discussion, everybody else arrived at the same decision.
So let's look at how that has now affected your work. Although you shut down the activities and the games, we know you didn't stop working as an athletics department.
No. Well, you know, I much respect to those people who work from home, because here's what has happened. We have had to flip the script and make sure that our coaches now became managers of their teams from a human resource standpoint. And Roy, I want you to understand this. And when I talk to you this way, this is how I had to talk to the coaches. Student athletes have been trained to do two things in life. And you probably will remember this when I tell you this. Most of them says, you don't ever want to make mama cry or disappoint coach, right? Daddy doesn't get a shot. You know, you can do whatever you want to do to dad, but you don't want to make mama cry and you don't want to disappoint coach. You know, most of us have coaches who will be with us for the rest of our lives. Right. Just don't ever want to let this coach down. And so I had to really sit down with all of our coaches and say, now you've got to really help these young people by coaching them through this scenario that they've never, ever faced in their lives. Most of us haven't either. So you've got to really be one-on-one with them. You've got to invade their personal space every day. So we had all of our coaches are doing Zoom conferences. They're checking in. They're doing Zoom team meetings. We've got our academic people involved with them. You're checking in, making sure that they're up to date with their work. And the realities comes there that some of these kids don't have Wi-Fi at home. And now everybody's saying, well, you're doing online classes. No, they're not. They're doing remote learning. And there's a big difference. And so many of the schools and many of the coaches had to get retrained on a lot of different things. So coaching, what's a coach? A coach, the old definition of coach is master teacher, one who prepares you for the exam. And so we had to really dive deep into that definition and inspire our coaches to really become more than just a coach on the floor or on the field. You had to coach these kids through this tragedy, through this life-threatening situation. And for the first couple of weeks, these kids were scared to death because they did not know what was at stake. Many of their parents lost their jobs. Right. Some of the relatives lost their lives. It affected one of my loved ones, And so here we are now. But the most important thing is I've been stuck to my computer at home. I have to literally sit in front of my computer and work almost all day long because I'm afraid that I might miss something. And my two daughters, my oldest child is a theatrical director from New York City, and she was in Miami and directing a play, and the play closed because of the virus. And so she finally was able to make her way home to Daytona Beach. And she's been telling me, Dad, you need to get away from the computer because Zoom meetings, answering emails, and this 8x8 software that we do where your phone calls come to you, I'm stuck here all day long. And I've got to really retrain myself because part of what I do, I'm out all the time, And so I'm sure that probably every other AD or every other coach or executive probably has the same problem I have. And you probably do too.
Well, honestly, the one thing I can say is that we're used to the in front of the computer digital space, so yeah. We're all right. It's all right with us, but no, it is definitely something that's making people have to do something. It's a new normal.
Yeah, it is a new normal.
We are looking at. Again, I am sitting here speaking with Mr. Lynn Thompson, the athletic director at Bethune-Cookman University, who now I knew he was the longest tenured athletic director in the MEAC. I found out that he is also, I believe, the longest tenured athletic director in D1.
Yeah.
In D1 here in the U.S. So congratulations on that. Now you've been at Bethune-Cookman for how long?
Well, this is my 29th year at Bethune-Cookman. And Roy, when I started, I was the youngest Division I athletics director in America. Oh. Now, I am not the oldest, even right now, okay? So let me make that clear. I am not the oldest. I've just been fortunate to have found a great university that I call home, that I've been able to have an impact on, and it has had an impact on my life. And I'm blessed to be here, simple as that. People say, why haven't you left? I've had numerous opportunities to leave. And for whatever the reasons are, I just did not, and have not yet. People ask me, are you going to leave? Who knows? I mean, I don't know what the future holds. Eventually, I'm sure I'll be called to want to do something else, and I'm not going to ever close the door on an opportunity to do something that may benefit me or somebody else. But I love what I do. I love who I do it for. And as long as I'm able to do those kinds of things and stay young and healthy, I'm going to continue to do it.
All right. Well, great. Hey, listen, we've watched your career over the years, so we know that you have helped move and direct Bethune-Cookman into being a powerhouse in the MEAC and doing a lot of things, and definitely one of the most, if not the most stable programs in Black college sports. So we definitely commend you on your years and on that distinction. So we'll make sure that we push that out there, longest tenured. So let's talk a little bit about we're going to put this in two different phases. Let's first talk about what are some of the plans moving forward? What do you think is going to be happening? What are some of the options that we're looking at as we get ready for fall, we know that states are reopening now, things are happening, and there's been numerous types of discussions. But let's start off one with what you think some of those things are going to happen, and then let's get into what you'd like to see happen. You know, what is what
Well, I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a group at the MEAC level that serves on the forecasting committee. And what we've done is we've put together and are putting together some models as it relates to how we'll resume competition when the time is right. And many of those models are built on the national conversation, non-conference games, what the NCAA will allow when it's time to resume practice, conditioning, and when the dates of competition will have been decided. The next thing will occur is what is the length of the season? What are the cost implications? How will teams travel? And we do know that commercial air travel, people are afraid to death of it now because that was one of the modes of transmission when you got mass numbers of people stuck in one area and trying to move mass numbers of people. That is how the virus spread. And so part of our mission is to really design protocols that the conference and our chief executive officers can feel comfortable operating under. And that will, if each member institution in our conference will have to abide by those policies and procedures in addition to those that will be mandated by their respective university systems, the respective state and local authorities. And as we build this out, well, it is a challenge because there are so many variables that change from day to day. For instance, we have yet to see a vaccine. We have yet to, to really see an acceptable number of people in the population that's been tested. So, and that begs the question of the legality, the ethical and moral questions that got to be raised. Pro sports, there's a contract that you say you got to play, and I don't care if you got to play in front of no spectators. You have an obligation to play. Is another proposition if a student athlete signs a scholarship and the parent says, I'd love for my son or daughter to play, but can you guarantee their safety? And so we really have to put all of those things on the table as an institution and as a conference of like-minded institutions and bring all of the experts from the scientific, medical, governmental, risk management communities, coaching, and all the academic, and bring them to the table and have these discussions and create a minimum standard of safety care and policies and procedures by which we'll all operate and then feel reasonably safe that we are in a position to implement these things for our programs. And we are not at that point yet because every day every day a new set of variables come forth. And it is a challenging yet very exciting prospect of sitting at the table with your colleagues to come to grips with these various issues, but we have not answered the questions yet. And so I'm asked all the time, do you think we'll play in the fall? We don't know. We don't know, but we are planning, and we have to go through scenario planning as if we will.
Wow. Yeah, it is. You're right. And like you said, with the states reopening up, and the whole 2-week period, it's going to be an interesting. Most of the states started opening back up this past Friday.
Right.
First. And so we're really going to see where we are with this thing in 2-3 weeks, and see if that was a smart move on a lot of people's parts or how it's moving. But I think, like you said, the biggest challenge is that we have yet to see a national or major statewide testing model to see who might be infected.
Well, I've gone and got tested, and I was pleased to know that you can get tested and get the results. I got tested and got results in 15 minutes, and that was great. But everybody might not have access to that. And I was surprised to get access to it. But yesterday, I was in our historic Moore Gymnasium. And I was with a couple of our staff members, and as we began to build our own set of protocols, we were imagining what a basketball or volleyball game would look like with the new norm set of protocols with social distancing in the gym, and where you got to really close down a third of your building to make sure that you are in line with the recommended protocols. And how then do you put the signage on the floors? How then do you redesign your concession stands, your entrances, your exits? How do you redesign your bathrooms and things like that? And so it is more than a notion, Roy, that you used to be just concerned about the game, but then where's your testing area? How do you test the officials? What about the shot clock operator? You got to test them too, based on everybody that's involved in the game has to be tested according to some of the early versions of the protocols that are coming out. You got to be able to guarantee that the people who are intricately involved and intimately involved in the game got to be tested.
Wow. Yeah, and like you said, the logistics behind that, as we think of athletics, as things that people probably have yet to think about.
Yeah. And I mean, you posting up, let's say you're doing a basketball game, Roy. You're posting up the guy next to you. You're posting up assuming that he's clean.
Right.
And so you got to test those folks too. And we are assuming those protocols are in place and that the testing will be readily available and that a vaccine will be in place. And so we have to base all of these models on the assumption that those will be in place, and we don't have yet any cost implications.
Right. Yeah, because of course everything comes with a cost in these days, so that's going to be something else to look into. Let's change the subject a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what's special, what's new, what you got going on that's got you excited down there in Daytona Beach.
Well, we've been fortunate, been blessed to been on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff. As when we first started talking earlier today, we talk about the future. One thing that this virus has done to the industry is it has made it clear that those universities who have the ability to control their product in terms of live streams and things like that will really become more relevant. It's not as much about butts and seats as it is about clicks now. And so if you're able to reach your audience, your core demographic on the computer, if they can tune in, if you can sell subscriptions through the live stream to your events, then you'll be able to continue to thrive. At Bethune-Cookman, we for the last several years have been successful in doing that with our Cat-Eye network. We've been so successful that our anchor group of staff members now have gone on to bigger and better things. Everybody else has come in like through free agency, and snatched my core group of people up. And so now we're beginning to rebuild our network of key leaders in the Cat-Eye network. And that's going to be a challenge for me, personal challenge, but I'm excited about it. And that's one of the great things that we'll be doing, because we really have done a tremendous job of furthering the brand of Bethune-Cookman through what we do athletically.
All right. Well, is there anything in particular that you want to speak out on and say something to your fans?
Yeah, I do. I want to say something to everybody's fans, but more importantly, here's one thing that you hear people talking about. This virus has really put a stranglehold on athletic departments, and it really has. Season tickets and things, and a lot of the Power 5 institutions are really hurting because they've been leveraged so much. They've got deferred maintenance. They got bonds that have been financed, and they got to pay. A lot of the HBCUs like ours, while that is important to us, we may not have been as leveraged as some of those other institutions. The support that we receive from our alums and our fans and our stakeholders is just as vital to us as it is to a Power 5 institution. And we are so dependent upon the support of our Wildcat Nation and our fan base. And I really want to take the time to distinguish between two things for our fans and supporters. Number one, while buying a ticket to an athletic event is important, and we are so appreciative, that really is not an investment in the program. It is an exchange for an entertainment. That's all it is. You know, we really need for our fans and supporters to invest in the program. And I mean really, really invest in the program. Invest in the scholarship drives. Become an annual contributor to the program. Also, you see our logos, our trademark logos. Buy your paraphernalia from the licensed vendors who are licensed with the universities and their respective organizations who protect the licensing for the institution. That is important. The other day I was on the internet and I had to report several people who were selling Bethune-Cookman University masks, and they weren't trademarked. And some of these people I know, and they were just, they were trying to make a buck, and they were selling the Bethune-Cookman logo and no trademark on it. And I just had to send them a private and say, man, you can't do that. And one of them said, man, hey man, I'm just trying to survive out here. And I asked one guy, I said, well, what if I took a picture of you and put your name on a mask and start selling your name and your picture? How would you feel? You would want a cut of that. He said, yeah, you can't do that. I said, well, you can't do that to the school either, because this is what keeps the institution alive. And I would venture to say that if you were talking to Ashley Robinson from Jackson State, Courtney Gaucher from FAMU, Kerry Davis from Howard, Marty Miller from Norfolk State, Keith Davison from UMES, any one of my colleagues, they would probably tell you the same thing, because it is so important that our fan base really understands. And there are fans out there who understand, and we thank you that you've done that for years, that you support us. But it is also a segment of the population that does not get it yet. And I pray that those who are out there will begin to invest in our programs, because the only way that we'll survive and maintain our relevance is for those people to really invest.
All right. Well, that's it. We definitely want to make sure that folks do that. And as you said, we've been online. You can pretty much see some of everybody's logo and pictures on different things. Now I'm gonna keep my professional hat on here for a minute.
Okay.
I'll step into a little bit of something else, because I am a rapper.
Okay.
I got us 10 years in a row. But we're definitely looking for it. Let's talk a little bit, just kind of being facetious with that. But let's talk a little bit about that rivalry. Somebody who's been engaged in that rivalry for 30 years from the athletic director's perspective, man. How is that? How's that whole rivalry for you? What is that like?
Man, let me tell you. Okay, half my family went to FAMU. All right. And as a little boy, all the women in my family went to FAMU. Okay. And all the men in my family went to FAMU. All the women went to Bethune from way back, and they would say, you send your boys to Jake, but you send your girls to Mary. And my mother from St. Pete, my mother's from Key West, and I almost went to FAMU.
Okay.
I was recruited by FAMU, and I just, the last minute, I decided to go to Bethune-Cookman, and I stayed home, and it was the best decision of my life. But the relationship that we have with FAMU is one that everybody is envious of, because we are really business partners. That's all it is. Now, we go at each other one day a year.
Right.
And then after that game is over, we go to the bank. Because there is no other rivalry out there that is full of love like ours. And let's be real about it, Roy. We'll talk all the noise in the world, but at the Florida Classic, there's never a fight, right? at the end of the game, you're going back to your tent, you're going to sit there and laugh and joke. And how many times do you see these cars, half the tag is Bethune, the other half is FAMU? How many families are split down the middle? It's just a matter of relationships. And what we've done in America is we created this business model called a Florida Classic Consortium, where we own this game. And we split everything down the middle. It is the greatest business relationship between two Black colleges that benefits both universities. And it's a shame that no other schools in America will do the same thing. We own the whole thing.
You know what, Mr. Thompson, I want to jump into a sidebar discussion here as it relates to this. I have been, for years, I have been a proponent of a realignment, so to speak, of HBCU sports. And actually, my guys literally just did a full show last Friday, and I'll send you the link for that so you can check that one out. That one is one of our other guys, one of my commentators did that one. His is completely different in model as far as what I look at and say. But one of the things that I have often said is that I don't like the big payout games. And that I believe that if we get all of our HBCUs together, all of them that play football, because we understand, let's be realistic, 90% of athletic budgets are derived through football monies that are made for the teams and the universities and things of that nature. But if they all got together, we have something that most of these, what I call new universities, don't have. And that's over 100 years of history. We've got 5 generations of fans who are HBCU fans. You can't say that with schools like Kennesaw State, Georgia State, and I tell people, I say, listen, most people don't get the fact that right up the street from you, the UCF was an aberration.
That's right.
Because of the fact that they were the largest, they were already land and student-wise, they were already the largest state university. Right. So when they played football, they were able to jump to the front of the line. And if the Black colleges, I've always said, if the Black colleges take control of their product, then they can make more money. We already know that behind the Power 5, that's where the money's come in at anyway.
Correct.
The HBCUs. But what is your take on HBCUs doing that as a whole, starting to own their classic games, because that's the model?
Well, you're absolutely right. And my good friend Dennis Thomas had to convince me of 2 things. Number one, he had to convince me to support him on the Celebration Bowl, because I was a playoff guy.
Okay.
And you don't make money in the playoffs, but I wanted to compete for the national championship. And there was a time, we've competed 4 different times and made, in my tenure, we made playoffs 4 times. I've been on the NCAA football committee and served in that capacity several years. But you sound almost like Dennis. And I got to give Dennis credit. Dennis floated that Celebration Bowl concept out several years. We voted it down at the MEAC level twice. He kept bringing it back, and he said the same thing. Dennis is also, as a commissioner, said we should also talk about some conference matchups with the SWAC where we can have some games. This year, one of the games I've tried my best to play a lot of the SWAC teams in non-conference games. It's difficult.
Right.
Very difficult. This year, we did have Pine Bluff on the schedule. I've tried my best to get non-conference games because I want to make sure that I'm able to get them. I did have a deal with Tennessee State a couple years ago because for that very same reason. We want to play, the fans want to see certain games. And if you have the combination of a great band and a great team, then you can do certain things. And you're absolutely correct, Roy. That is how you have to do it. Now, on the other side of that coin, it's difficult to turn down $500,000 to drive 3.5 hours down 95, and you're going to spend maybe $70,000 and you're going to make $430,000 and come back home. So it's very difficult to do that unless, for one game. Sometimes you got to do that. However, I do think that if, in fact, we could schedule some of the great matchups on an annual basis that the fans want to see. I believe you might get, the commissioner of the SWAC and the commissioner of the MEAC would get together and say, why don't we schedule out these games over the next several years where the fans would really go and come to those games. And I think you might be onto something. And that's what we've really been having those conversations about.
Well, I'm going to definitely have to make sure that I get you a copy of my proposal, because I will be putting it out. We are going to do another broadcast on that, talking about that whole premise. And that's part of my situation, my thought process is that you do this because I told someone, I said, listen, if you want to tell me, and I just used, at this point, I used FAMU and Tennessee State as an example, and you use the number, just say $500,000. You can't tell me that we can't bring those two schools on an annual basis to Atlanta, and each of them walk away with at least $550,000 to $600,000, and that's after expenses, in my opinion. With the amount of sponsorship that you would be able to gather, because the fans are going to be there, we know you're going to sell it out, and that could be the same thing with the Bethune-Cookman. You look at doing something with the Bethune-Cookman, and say even Alabama State. Just somebody we've got to create these in our thought, or at least in my opinion, we've got to create these regional matchups that we have with our HBCUs that make it viable for us to continue to do these things. And like you said, the fans want to see it. The fans,
you're right. You're absolutely right. What we did with FAMU, there was a time when we had promoters who would call. Roy, there was one time I got a call from a promoter to do a game in Gary, Indiana. And Ken Free was our commissioner of the MEAC. And I called Ken Free, and Ken Free started laughing. And I said, well, what's funny, Ken? He said, did you call him back? I said, yeah, but it didn't answer. So I called him back again, and the guy was calling me from a phone booth,
Wow.
And there was a time when any and everybody thought that they could promote a game. Well, we've got protocols that if you, let's say, Roy, you want to promote us, then there's certain things you got to do through the conference office where they vet you. They do a Dun & Bradstreet report on you. You got to, so many things you got to do. Well, with the Florida Classic, with this consortium, we decided that we were going to be our own promoter. We own the game. Can you imagine if Bethune and Alabama State decided that we were going to create our own consortium, and we were going to create it in Mobile, Alabama, and we were going to have a game in Mobile, and just have that annually, or for a 10-year period of time where we'll meet the halfway point. Those are the kinds of things that you do. But more importantly, now you open up the opportunity. See, people don't realize that not only do we have the game, but we've had a symposium. FAMU and Bethune-Cookman are involved in research together. See, that opens the door to so many other opportunities. Where now you're talking federal funds and shared research and other initiatives. And that's really when you get into a conference, because a conference is nothing but an aggregation of like-minded and like-mission universities, and where they share the wealth, not only in athletics, but when you look in your environmental science majors and their departments get together and work on initiatives. The provost meet at the MEAC basketball tournament. Do you realize we have the NCAA comes down and meets with all of us on NCAA matters, and all of our registrars, our chief academic officers, everybody. We meet there from the whole MEAC on an annual basis. So it's almost like a mini convention. And so that doesn't get a lot of recognition, but those things happen when you got conferences that are engaged. And so as many times that we get an opportunity to put some structure around a relationship between two universities, it's amazing what can happen.
Well, again, we are talking with Mr. Lynn Thompson, the athletic director at Bethune-Cookman University. Mr. Thompson, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah.
Did run into you at the Classic. And actually, I think we ran into you guys in Jacksonville one time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure did. Football came up there. We were partnered with Edward Waters College, and you guys came up there for that. So, we're definitely excited about it again. Congratulations on all the things that are happening down there in Daytona Beach. Continued success, continued growth, and hey, we're HBCU supporters. So before I put my FAMU hat on, I put those HBCU hats on, and we always, like you said, outside of those times on the courts and on the field. And I don't care what nobody say. Y'all can't talk about my brother or my sister. So
that's right. And we're family, man. We're family, okay?
but again, this is BCSN Conversations with Mr. Lynn Thompson. Ms. Thompson, last word. Always give it to the athletic directors or whoever we're talking to. Any information you want to give out people to reach out to the university, the school, or how do you want them to do that?
I just want to say thank you to you for what you're doing, because anytime you get an opportunity to showcase our institutions and spread the news about what we are doing, much respect. And if there's anything that any of our institutions can do to continue to further your vehicle, then consider it done. All right, Roy?
All right, well, we definitely appreciate that. Once again, the head Wildcat, Mr. Lynn Thompson. Take care. We'll be back with more.
For my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like the day is breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching say, hey, this for my people that don't get to see me, trying to remind you who you are, just like in Romans 3. See, we about to blow across the world just like a day that's breezy. This motivation for the people, and this classic Bible teaching, hey, motivation.